Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm your book bush, Sarah, and today we're going to talk about the books that I read in May, and we're going to get into my thoughts. We're going to get you the lowdown of the stories, whether I think that you should read them, and we're just going to get into the key of it all. Okay, so let's get started. So the first book that I finished in May was Sweet Chaos by Emery Rose. This is book 2 in the Love and Chaos series. This book was published when was this published? This book was published in 2020, and it follows Dylan and Scarlett. Now, this book is a forbidden and second chance, sort of second chance trope. So Dylan and Scarlett have known each other since Scarlett was 11 years old. Okay, how is this possible? Because Dylan's been dating Scarlett's older sister, Sierra, since he and Sierra were, I think, juniors in high school. On again, off again, super toxic. He's a troubled bad boy. Sierra and Scarlett both come from money, and they all live in a coastal California, like Southern California town. And yeah, Sierra and Dylan are toxic. And so when Scarlett and Dylan are kind of reunited, Scarlett is now 21. So everybody's of age. That's not the forbidden part of it. The forbidden part is Dylan and Scarlett strike up a relationship. And as much as Scarlett resists it, it deepens, right? So I really loved this book. I love this relationship between Dylan and Scarlett, because Scarlett's always had a thing for Dylan, but she was a little girl when they met. But she can't deny the attraction she has to and the pull she has to Dylan. So she says, "Hey, listen, let's just be friends." And at this point, Dylan's like, "No, you're it for me. I chose the wrong sister." Okay. So Dylan is like, bad boy turned tech millionaire somehow. He's like apparently a math genius, so ends up going to college, getting into software, owns a bunch of businesses, super rich now, kind of to spite Scarlett and Sierra's dad, but also because he wants to, right? So he's, good, bad boy turned good. But there is just a lot of angst in this story, but it's super believable because Dylan has a really troubled childhood, and they kind of get into it in this story. So you really sympathize with him, really kind of understand his motivation for just being kind of a jerk, actually. But this book is a whole mood. It's actually really been living rent-free in my mind. And I just recommend it. So this book, 3 out of 5 on the Spice rating. What that means for me is it's good, some good scenes, nothing outlandish, nothing that I think we would, as avid romance readers, would be uncomfortable with, but spicy nonetheless. And the story, I give it 4.5 stars. So I give this story 4 stars out of 5. One thing that I'll say, just to kind of give you a sense of like why this is a whole mood, is so in the story, Dylan's favorite song is Black by Pearl Jam. Okay, if you're a Gen Xer like me and we're a grunge fanatic like me, you know what I'm talking about, okay? So it's a whole mood. And part of me thinks that this story was inspired by that song. So if you don't know what I mean, go listen to the song and then go read the book. And I think you'll pick up what I'm laying down here, okay? All right, so then I finished Because You're Mine by Claire Contreras. So this is book 1 in the Because series by Claire Contreras. And this was released, I believe, in 2018. Come on. And so if you're like me and you read Until I Get You, which is Claire Contreras' latest read, and then you liked it, and you're like me, you're like, hey, I'm going to go read Claire Contreras' backlist now. Don't do that with this book. So this follows Lorenzo and Kat. This is a forbidden / off-limits mafia romance. So Kat is a prima ballerina in New York City. She is a princess in a mafia, like a Chicago mafia family, but she kind of rejects that lifestyle. Like she uses her mother's maiden name. So she had moved back to New York she was dancing in London. So she moves to New York, she's dancing, and her sister is at NYU. She's getting a journalism degree. Sister's the same way in that they reject the family lifestyle. So she gets a call from, Kat gets a call from her sister. It's like, hey, I need you to go to this class for me. I think they're twins. I think that's why this is like a whole thing, like something that they could do. So she's like, go to this class for me. I gotta travel for this story, but go to this class for me. And Kat's like, yo, I have a job. I'm a ballerina. I've got rehearsals. So anyway, she ends up doing it and walks into this class, and the professor is this like super hot FBI guy, and that's Lorenzo. Lorenzo's got some secrets. They're not supposed to be together based on who their families are, but I won't say anything more than that. So I don't want to spoil it, right? So, like I said, I wouldn't start reading Claire Contreras' backlist based on this story. I didn't really like it. I gave it 3 to 5 stars for spice, meaning again it was like steamy but nothing outlandish, right? But I gave this story 2 stars, so I gave this a 2.5 stars. I haven't picked up any of the other books in the series. I picked up a different book by Claire Contreras. I think it's her latest. It's one of her more recent ones. I don't know. I'm not going to get into it in this this video, but yeah, because you're mine. I don't recommend. So 2.5 stars. So then the next book that I finished was Iced by Bella Matthews. This is book 3 in the the Defiant King series. This was published May of 2023. This is a nanny single dad trope, and it follows India and Jace. Now, Jace is an NHL player. He's like a rookie hockey player. He ends up playing for his family's hockey team. So his family is a bunch of billionaires. Like they own the Philadelphia hockey team and the Philadelphia football team. And so that's Jace. India ends up being his nanny because she's a kindergarten teacher who's like just graduating, and it's like kind of late in the year. I mean, kind of late in the hiring cycle, and so she hasn't found a classroom. So she needs a job. Jace needs a nanny. India knows one of Jace's sisters, so she goes to interview. Okay, he hires her, whatever. She moves into his house, and the story unfolds from there. So, okay, this is also insta-love. So if you don't like insta-love, don't read this book. And here's why. It's like not even 2 weeks before like she moves in, and then 2 weeks later they're like, she's like sleeping in his bed and they're together. I'm sorry, 2 weeks? Okay. So the whole timeline in the book I think is less than 6 months. It's just like it was like silly, right? And there was some kind of questionable aspects of Jace's background that just really weren't developed well at all, and it was like kind of cringy. The spice, like the Smegsy scenes. So I give this 2 out of 5 stars. So do with that what you will. Okay. And then after Iced, I finished Until August by Emery Rose. So this is book 3 in the Love and Chaos series. So this was actually published in January of 2023. And so it took 2.5 years to finish the Love and Chaos series. And I know that Emery Rose has written some other books in between then, but just so you know. So this book follows Nicola and August. So August of the title is a chef. He's a former kind of like it chef, bad boy chef of the kind of culinary world. And this is set in that same Southern California, like coastal town. And Nicola is the best friend of Scarlett from book 2. So we met Nicola in book 2. And Scarlett is dealing with, sorry, not Scarlett, Nicola is dealing with, she's grieving for her husband, who actually hasn't passed away, but I'm not going to spoil what happens because you actually meet him in book 2 as well. So it's been 10 years. Like on the timeline from between book 2 and book 3, 10 years in the story has progressed. And so Nicola had been married to her husband for 10 years and something happens and she's grieving him. So she meets August. So Nicola has a restaurant. She needs a sous chef. So she hires August because he was like Michelin starred and like so well, like world renowned. And she is in a slump. And so she figures, hey, I'll hire this guy. Maybe I'll, we'll get some good press out of it, and this will elevate my game in the restaurant. So she does, and it does. So this is a friends to lovers second chance romance. So I'm not going to really spoil the second chance part of it because it is like kind of second chance. But I gave this, so this is a 3 out of 5 again on the spice level. Good scenes, nothing outlandish. This story is a 5 out of 5 for me. I actually really loved this story. I thought it was super believable in terms of the way that the characters were acting because, I didn't talk about August. He had spent 5 years in prison for something he did, which is why he doesn't have his own restaurant anymore and why he's a sous chef and not like a head chef of his own restaurant, right? So he's a felon, needs to get back in the game, and was humbled by the experience and is just really happy to kind of lift Nicola up. So they're friends, because they really respect each other, but they work together. So it's friends, workplace, second chance trope. Okay. So anyway, the story was great. It was believable. They were like mature adults. I was reading mature adults for once. It was amazing. And I just really enjoyed that their dynamic. I enjoyed that aspect of like really reading kind of the way they interacted with each other, the things they were dealing with, their thought process. And it made a lot of sense. Like I could see it happening in real life and it was great. So I gave this story 4 out of 5, 4.5 stars out of 5, not a 5, but a 4.5. And it was awesome. So I recommend it really highly. So then the next book that I finished was Fallen Foe by L.J. Shen. And this is book 2 of the Cruel Castaway series. This book follows Arsène and Winifred. This is a workplace lovers romance, it's also, let's just call it workplace lovers because Arsène's family owns the theater where Winifred is an actress. So he's technically her boss. This was published May 9th, 2023. I don't know how many pages it is, but it's under 400 pages, I'm pretty sure. So it's fine. Like not a big deal. How long did it take me to read it? It took me 3 days to read it. So it's good. So, LJ Shen book, really, really good, back and forth, good banter, decent character development. But I have to say, the concept was original, but a little odd. Okay. So there was 2 parts to the book. So in the first part, Winifred is married. And Arsène is in a relationship with his stepsister, like a long-term relationship with his stepsister. But it's not like they're out and about. It's kind of like the best kept or like the worst kept secret. And they're in Manhattan, right? And they have this so Arsène and his stepsister Grace have this really toxic relationship, and he has a twisted reason for wanting to be with her. It's just a little odd that I didn't really understand it. I didn't quite get it. And I just didn't really kind of believe that somebody would want to be with another individual for the reason that he was. So I was like, okay, I'll go with it. But so the first part of the book, we're getting to know Arsène and Winifred separately, and they're sort of kind of connecting. But the real thing that connects them is that Winifred's husband and I don't remember his name, But and then Arsene's like lady stepsister, Grace, work together, and so they like. So Arsene and Winifred will see each other at like work events that they're going to for their SOs, right? And then something happens, and then Winifred and Arsene come together. And that's the second part of the book. And I think it seemed like the first part of the book was the majority, like a small majority of the book, but still the majority. And it was just odd enough that I was like, I don't understand. So then the second half is Winifred and Arsene coming together. And I just felt like the ending was rushed. Like at the end, I liked Winifred, but I wasn't sympathetic to Arsene. I didn't really like him, which is kind of par for course for LJ Shan heroes these days. Is it's just kind of like, you're just kind of an unlikable douchebag. So yeah, I mean, that's all I'll say. So anyway, this was 3 out of 5 stars on the spice level, 3 out of 5 stars on the story. So I gave this book 3 stars. So that was Fallen Foe by LJ Shan. And then I finished Beyond the Thistles by Samantha Young. This is book 1 in the Highland series. So this follows Walker and Sloane. Walker is our hero. Sloane is our heroine. This is a friends to lovers bodyguard trope because he's like security at this resort in the Scottish Highlands that they both work at. And Sloane is in housekeeping. Sloane is American, a single mom, and her daughter's like 10. And Walker is former like Royal Marine, and he's now like security. I say bodyguard because I think he's a bodyguard for one. There's like a family of famous people that include an actor that own this resort, and they Walker is one of these guys' bodyguards, or he was. Anyway, it makes sense when you read it. So this actually has a little bit of suspense. I would say it's like a moderate level of suspense in the book as well. So Sloane is fleeing something in Los Angeles, and so she gets hooked up with this position in the Scottish Highlands, and I think Arnock, I think is the name of the town, and I don't know if that's a real place or not. Yeah, you know, she meets Walker like pretty soon after she starts working at this estate, and she's instantly attracted to him. Just is like, oh, he's it, and she's just kind of pining for his attention. And the book opens having pined for him for a little while, and Walker is resisting his attraction to her. So their kind of story unfolds as some dangers to her life start to like some threats to her life start to happen, and she's in danger. He gets very protective of her, and then their kind of romantic relationship starts there. So I gave this book on the spice scale 3 out of 5. Again, he's supposed to be like, it's not a daddy because he's not that much older than she is. I think he's maybe like over 10 years older than she is, which is like funny. I don't know. At some point, it's not that big of a deal to women, but it always seems to be like a big deal to the guys in these books. And I'm like, whatever. And then the story I gave 4 out of 5 stars. So I gave this book 3.5 stars out of 5. I mean, I liked it. I'd recommend it, but it was like fine, right? So that was Beyond the Thistles by Samantha Young. And then I read Heart of Steel by Kathleen, who is it by? Kathleen Cole and Frank Jensen. I got my notes right here. I got my notes. Okay. So this was published in January of 2021. This is book 1 of the Vikings MC series. This book follows Steele and Remy. So Steele is our hero and Remy is our heroine. So this is like an MC book, but it's not super gritty. For an MC, they are outlaw MCs, meaning they run drugs. But it's also not very gritty. It's interesting, right? So this has got some medium suspense because there's some... Well, let me just back up. So Steele's in an MC. He's probably like mid to late 20s. Remy is 21. She's a college student. She's finishing up her business degree. so she can run the trucking business that her father left to her when he passed away. So the story opens up. Her father has been dead for a year, and she's kind of like part-time managing this trucking business with the intention of her taking over fully when she graduates. And her uncle is kind of picking up the slack. And so then some weird stuff starts happening with involving the trucking business, and the MC and the trucking business intersect. So that's the kind of where the medium suspense is. But Steele meets Remy on a college campus. For whatever reason, he and his MC brothers are on a college campus, and Remy is there with one of her best friends, and the best friend and one of Steele's MC brothers like hit it off right away. And Remy's like, I don't have time for this. We got to go to class. We're going to be late, la, la, la. Turns out later they go to some party. And like, that's where Steele is like, this chick is for me. He's kind of like just instantly smitten with her. So then the book opens up with her, well, not opens up, but the book, the story unfolds with her really resisting her attraction to Steele, because it's like all these red flags. Okay. And she's got stuff to deal with this business. So that's all I'll say. So 3 out of 5 stars on the Spice. Story is 4 out of 5 stars. So I did give this book 3 3/4 stars. We're basically on Star Search. That's what's happening, right? So yeah, decent story. It did take me, I think this one took me like a month. This one took me a month to read. So I put it down, picked it up, put it down, it's one of those. So it was good, it's fine, but I haven't read any more of the series, and I don't think I will. So, whatever, Heart of Steel. Then I read Click by Brianna Michaels. Okay, this is number 3 in the Next Level series. This was published April of 2023. And this follows Mac and Carson. Mac is a hospice nurse. Carson is a boudoir photographer. So they meet because Mac has booked a boudoir photo shoot, but she tries to cancel it because she broke up with her boyfriend. And Carson's like, yeah, he talks to her, basically convinces her to go through with the shoot. And then they meet, interact, and they're attracted to each other. Okay. So, like I said, this is book 3 in the Next Level series. This is the 3rd book after Glitch and Flip. Excuse me. So, Glitch and Flip. If you've read these books, you probably know why I'm making these faces. Because those books, yes, please. Those books were amazing. Not very long. So this book, I think, is under 250 pages. And they're all like that. They're all pretty short. So they kind of get right to it. This book is not like that. This book did not hit the same way as Glitch and Flip. It's unfortunate, because I actually liked Flip as well as I liked Glitch, and I really liked Glitch. That was really good. But it was spicier than any of the other books I've read. Definitely that. I mean, this kind of tracks with the series. But the story, for me, I didn't love. So I gave this book 3.25 stars. So 3.5 on the spice level, 3 stars out of the story. So 3 1/4 stars for that. All right, next. Oh man, come on. Okay, then I finished Malevolent King by Mila Kane. This was published May 17th, 2023. And this is book 1 of the Maid of Mayhem duet. Malevolent King is followed by Runaway Queen, okay, which is book 2. And they're both available, so you just read Malevolent King, go right into Runaway Queen. And what I have to say is run, don't walk to get Malevolent King and Runaway Queen, because this book is great. Okay, so this story follows Nikolai and Sophia, and this is a Mafia Bratva forbidden romance. So Nikolai is the second son, or spare, of the Bratva Pakan in New York, and Sophia is a Mafia princess. And they meet when Sophia is 17 and Nikolai is 19. So then, they're about the same age, right? But she's underage, and then there's like something about her family that's like, she's always a little bit in danger when we get her in this story. And he is a kind of a protector for her. So they actually don't like hook up until she's 18, which I appreciated. But he's kind of like in and out of her life, right? Until then. And then they hit it off. And he's definitely over the top, jealous, possessive. He has his reasons for being the way that he is. They think he's got a rep for being a little nuts. But anyway, something happens in the first book that ends on a cliffy. And Nikolai goes to prison, and then Sophia takes off. Okay. So let's just talk about the first book. This book was great. And I actually, so typically with duets, I get annoyed when it reads like a money grab, right? Like you're like, this could have been longer and like one book. Like it didn't need to be two. And I actually think the way this duet was written, it makes sense that they're two separate books. And it was just really, really refreshing to have that experience. Like, this makes sense. I really like it. Oh, it's already available. I don't have to wait. It's available. And I think it was like 2 days. It took me 2 days to read Malevolent King, and maybe, yeah. Oh my God, I read Runaway Queen in 1 day. I read both of these books in 3 days. And it's like, they are both under 350 pages. So it was like 600 and something pages I read in 3 days. So go get it. Okay, so spice level 3 out of 5 stars. Story is 5 out of 5. Love it. Super love it. So I gave both of these books 4.5 stars out of 5. Let's talk a little bit about Runaway Queen. It's 7 years later. So this is a continuation, and it concludes it. And so there's actually it's just more character growth. Like I said, Nikolai goes to prison. So when this Runaway Queen opens up, he gets out of prison and is looking for Sophia, and she's hidden. So he ends up finding her, and then their story concludes. I have to say, I think this is the third and fourth book that I've ever seen by Mila Cain. I read her previous series, which is Nikolai's older brother. And it's a little bit similar vein, but I actually like this story better. I really liked the first, I can't remember the name of that series. Sorry, it's Mila Cain, Milakane. And that was great, but this one was excellent. And it was super unexpected too. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. So do yourself a favor and go read the Maid of Mayhem duet. Okay, so then the next book that I finished was Hawk by Jessie Hall. This book came out in November of 2022. This book follows Hawk and Nicole, and this is a boyfriend's friend forced proximity trope. That's how I call it. Okay. This book is a single POV story. This is written in Nicole's point of view. And there's a little bit of suspense going on too. I would say it's kind of a moderate level of suspense, actually. Like she's living with her boyfriend, and then Hawk moves in. She doesn't know why. Apparently he got out of prison. She doesn't know why. Her boyfriend's traveling for work, and it's weird. Like in terms of him being gone, he doesn't communicate very well. She doesn't exactly know what he's doing. So she just feels like it's a little bit weird, right? So anyway, so here's the thing. This was like pretty spicy, but because, with all these books, I didn't say this, check trigger warnings. There's cheating in this book. Like I said, it's boyfriend's friend, and Hawk is not her boyfriend. Hawk is her boyfriend's friend. So they cheat on her boyfriend. They cheat together. And it takes a while to for them to get to the cheating, right? And then by the time they do, she's really ready to leave the relationship. She's a little bit torn, but then like more stuff comes out about the boyfriend, and she's really ready to leave the relationship, right? It's fiction. Okay, so just go with it. But anyway, the spice is 3 stars out of 5. Again, smagsy, but nothing outlandish, right? But I gave this story 2 stars out of 5. So overall, I gave this book a 2.5 star rating. Okay, you guys, I know that some people like really like talk. Always book boyfriend material. Oh, this book was so great. I've heard that, and I'm not one of those people that has that opinion about this book. Okay, I thought the story was dumb, and I thought the resolution was dumb. I didn't think it was really well fleshed out. There could have been more there just could have been more to the boyfriend who ends up being kind of sleazy that would, I think, made it more interesting. And I just did not find it interesting. So 2.5 stars. Yeah, don't read it. I don't recommend it. Okay, so then the next book I finished was Before Us. That's right. By Julianne. I wonder if her name is actually Julianne, but she just spells it out Julianne. I like her books. I'm just having this thought. Okay, so this book came out in February of this year, 2023. And I actually checked this out back then, but I didn't. I read like maybe the first chapter, and I didn't keep reading it. I just kept it in my library. So I didn't finish this until May. So this book follows Emerson and Zach. This is a marriage of convenience trope. And again, check trigger warnings. We do have death of a spouse, and then people dealing with chronic illness. And that is all I'll say. That's like pretty, I think that's like in the description. So I don't know that that's going to spoil anything for anybody, but so Emerson, when the story opens, she is living in her car. She is epileptic. She has a fine arts bachelor's degree, a bunch of student loans, bunch of medical debt, and is, like I said, living in her car, and she's cleaning houses to make money. So she meets Zach and his wife Suzanne through a referral for one of her other clients, and so she agrees to go clean their house. She ends up being sort of a companion for Suzanne and does clean the house, but her kind of bigger contribution is that she's a companion for Suzanne. So then Suzanne passes away, and then Zach suggests that Emerson marry him for his health and travel benefits, because she's a photographer. So he's like, hey, if you want to go do any kind of travel photography, I've got really great flight benefits as well. You can use those. So she reluctantly agrees. I think it took her a little while. She wasn't like, yeah, sure, like right away. She felt weird about it. So they end up getting married, and their story unfolds from there. So the thing that I'll say about this story is that this is a 2 out of 5 star on the spice level for me, because it's good, but it's like not what the story's about. This is definitely a love story. I definitely think this is more like romantic women's fiction rather than like contemporary romance, right? And so it does take a while for them to be intimate, but you do really get to know the characters. So from a kind of character development standpoint, it's really well done. I gave the story 4 out of 5 stars, but I did give this story overall, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars, and here's why. So Emerson's background is, I say, fairly tragic in that she's in a strange relationship with her mother. I think she grew up in a trailer or something, and they're in Atlanta. So she just got the heck out of Athens, Georgia, where she grew up, and she doesn't talk to her mom. And she, I think, is also, she refers to herself as being kind of she doesn't say emotionally stunted, but in whatever way she says it, it's like that. And I'm just a little bit like, my feeling is that if she were a reasonably more well-adjusted person, this story wouldn't go anywhere, because somebody that is more kind of emotionally mature would, I just don't think that she would enter into the relationship. I don't think she would tolerate some of the stuff that Zach does. He doesn't do anything bad, but just I just think that there's the longing comes from seeking love when you just haven't had any. And it's just kind of annoying reading that stuff after a while. So I think the characters were developed. I actually think Emerson was much better developed than Zach. I wish there was kind of more about him. So it ended up just kind of being a story about her. And in my opinion, there was definitely his point of view, but I felt like I don't know how much value it added. So anyway, 3 out of 5 stars. I liked it, didn't love it. Okay. All right, good. So next book I finished was One and Only. This is Carla Sorensen's latest release. This is published May 16th of 2023. This follows Beckett, who's our hero, and Greer, who's our heroine. Greer. Okay. This is a marriage of convenience, single dad sports romance. Okay. So we follow, the story opens up with Greer interviewing people to marry her, to basically have a wedding. And then like there's a certain like time frame where they'll break up, right? And she's doing this because her father is ill, and she overheard her parents say that he is sad that he won't be able to walk her down the aisle. So she wants to give him that gift, which is like super sweet. I've never read that as a reason to get married in any of the marriage of convenience stories I've read. And then she happens upon Beckett that same night. Turns out Beckett is, one of Greer's brothers is a professional football player, and Beckett is one of his teammates. So they like kind of know each other, but not really. So he ends up agreeing to marry her. And because he has his own reason, it has to do with his daughter and having custody of his daughter, so he agrees to marry Greer and go through this whole charade so that he can have sole custody of his daughter for a year's period of time. So, okay, here's my summary. Okay. So I liked the characters. I actually really thought that the characters were developed pretty well. I liked both of them. He was a little grumpier. It was kind of Grumpy Sunshine, kind of. But anyway, that's kind of, I think that's less important of a trope than the kind of single dad sports element of it all. And the author's writing is really good, but she tends to write insta-love. So the timelines of the stories aren't very long. So you go from like meeting this person to like being their one in like 2 months, which I mean, I guess happens, but I don't know anybody that's happened to. So anyway, this story wasn't that bad. Like it was a couple of months from when they met to when they're like, oh wow, yeah, I really have feelings for you. Because I've read stories by this author where it's like a week. Girl, come on. So this was not that. So this was better. So this was decent. I read it in like 2 days. It must have been good. So this is a 3 out of 5 stars on the spice level. I actually gave this book 4 out of 5 stars just because I did like it and I finished it so fast. So yeah, One and Only, pretty good. And then I finished King by S.J. Tilley. This is book 2 in the Alliance series. This follows Nero. You guys have got to read this series. Oh God, I'm so low. Sorry. Was I like this the whole time? Oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh, I was reading my notes. Okay. So anyway, King. So here's the setup. This follows Savannah and King. And this is a forced marriage mafia, like adjacent. It's not technically mafia. He's not technically in the mafia, but it's mafia adjacent. It's organized crime. Okay. So the story opens up. Savannah's on a 3rd date. She's not going to take it anywhere. Her date like tags along with her to go see a friend of hers who's like maybe recovering from surgery. I think something like that. Recovering from surgery, broke her leg or something. So she's taking a lasagna to her friend, and her date, Lee, tags along. And she's like, all right, whatever. Gonna break up with them. Whatever. They go. They show up at the friend's house, and King is there with his sister, Aspen, who turns out to be Savannah's date's wife. So Savannah did not know that this guy was married. Okay, this is a problem. Date's wife is, reasonably upset. King is like, this is entertaining. Savannah gets out of there, not before dropping the lasagna on her friend's floor. She gets out of there, realizes later that she left her keys at her date's turns out, bachelor pad, even though he was not a bachelor, if you know what I'm saying. And so she goes there to get her keys, witnesses something that she shouldn't, gets chased by King. King's solution to her having seen what she shouldn't is that she has to marry him. I don't remember why he needed a wife. I don't think he needed a wife. I think it was for her protection. I think that's what it was. It's like, okay, you're innocent in all of this, but you've seen something you can't, so I got to protect you. You got to marry me. And then their story unfolds from there. And the thing about this series is that you've got the over-the-top guys, and everybody's mature. So Savannah's in her early 30s. I think she's like 32, 33. King is 45. And Nero was like that, where everybody's a freaking adult. And it was real spicy. It was, I say 3 out of 5, not for like level of heat, but like it was not anything like outlandish, right? Really good. And I gave this story 5 out of 5 stars. So I actually gave this book 5 out of 5 because I really liked it, and everybody needs to go read it. Like if you read Latte Darling or whatever other darling book she wrote, the books and the heroines are like curvy. Okay. Nobody's like super skinny or super heavy. My read of Savannah was that she was like curvy, and I'm like, I'm carrying an extra however many pounds. I would like some representation, and I felt like that was her. So dude, that book was great. Okay, King is 5 out of 5. I love that book so much, and I want everybody to read it. Okay, so then after that I read Liars Like Us, which is by J.T. Geisinger, published May 25th, 2023. This is book 1 of the Morally Gray series. So this is a new series by my girl J.T. Geisinger. And I say my girl, not because she's actually my girl, but I've read almost every single book in her big backlist, which is a lot. I just haven't read her Night Prowler series, because that's, I think, paranormal. And I don't do the PNR. Sorry. But anyway, super excited for this book. So this is a marriage of convenience trope. This is a romantic suspense. This is a single point of view, and it follows Callum and Emery. So we just get Emery's point of view, and she's freaking hysterical. She's so funny. She's described as some like hot mini Wednesday Addams. She just says super funny stuff. Super snarky, I loved it. And by the it, I mean, I loved the banter, and I loved like whatever she came up with to say that was super snarky. Lots of snark. Was really great. So the story is that Emery's a independent bookstore owner whose business is like super impacted by, it's called Value Books, but it's basically like imagine like if Amazon had a book front, like a storefront, which they do in Seattle, that used to be a Barnes and Noble. Anyway, that's a different conversation. Okay. So it's called Value Books is the name of the book chain, opening across the street, taking a bunch of her business. And so one of the few opening scenes is that she is in a restaurant with her employees, telling them that she's going to have to close the store. And then the next day, Callum comes in and says, I have the solution to your problem. I need a wife. You need my billions. Yes, he's a billionaire. Oh, yeah. So this is a marriage of convenience, romantic suspense, billionaire romance. Okay. Sorry about it. And she's like, you're crazy. Get out of here. I don't understand this. No. And then stuff starts to happen that really she needs to enter into this relationship. So she reluctantly agrees to it. And then they start to have, build their relationship, and it unfolds from there. But then, that's, of course, not it, because it's J.T. Geisinger. There's a bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes. And it's just great. Like, I think some people are going to be like, whatever. But I think this is setting up a really epic series. I think that's what's going on, is because, if you read up without, also this connects to a bunch of her other series, and she's in the acknowledgments at the end, she references it. And especially if you've read Queens and Monsters, you'll know what I'm talking about. it connects. And so I think this book is just opening up the series, but I think it does a really good job of being a standalone too, because I mean, we'll see how the rest of the series goes in terms of how Callum and Emery's story like grows and expands, if it does. But I thought it was great. But if you like just read it by itself, it could be a little like, okay, I don't really get it. But since I'd read almost all of the series, loved them, and kind of have a sense of how her series go, I actually think this is going to be freaking epic, and I'm really excited. I'm not going to jinx it by saying, oh, it's going to be better than Queens and Monsters, but like for me, Queens and Monsters was really, really great, but Brutal Vows, the last book, was everything. Raina is a queen. Raina means queen, so it makes sense. Freaking series is called Queens and Monsters. That series culminated and was about her. Like, that's my feeling, okay? And I'm not saying it's gonna be like that. I hope it is, but in terms of like being just dope, right? So anyway, Liars Like Us, I loved it. I gave it 4 out of 5. 4.5, excuse me, not 4 out of 5, 4.5 stars out of 5. Because like I said, there was parts of it where you're like, okay, where's this gonna go? But Ruthless Creatures was like that for me too in Queens and Monsters. So anyway, I loved it. Go read it. If you like J.T. Geisinger and you're picking up what I'm laying down, you'll like it. Okay, then the final book that I read in May was Mother's Day In by Leisha Ko. This was published in April of 2023. This is book 6 in her Hollow Night series of novellas that all feature a story centered around a specific holiday. So I was like, May, let's read the Mother's Day story. So spicy novella following Theo and Olivia. This is a reverse age gap in that Olivia is older than Theo. This is an over-the-top main character. This is a good one to read if you have or if you're trying to meet a reading goal. It's like 116 pages, so under 120 pages, right? And Theo had a thing for Olivia for like 4 or 5 years, I think. A while. And she's just really resisted it because she's got something about the fact that he's younger than she is. And so around Mother's Day, she checks into this inn that's running a deal for mother. She gets a babysitter, and Theo is there to help her unwind and relax, if you know what I mean. So I don't remember I think I gave this book, I think I gave it a 3.5 star review. I mean, it's good. Spicy. It's a novella. I'm not a novella queen. I lean a little bit more, right? So it was good. I actually liked Four Leaf better. If you've read Four Leaf or even listened to the narration, you know what I'm talking about. Because that Four Leaf, and this is not that. It's unfortunate, but it was still really good. So again, if you've got a reading goal, read it. But would I recommend it over King or Liars Like Us or even the Maid of Mayhem duet? No, I would not. So that's it for May. That's what I read. Comments, subscribers, all are welcome. Thanks for visiting my channel, and we'll see you next time.